Can you share with us a couple of defining moments for you in the mothership experience?
I think one that stands out the most was during incubation. We had our midpoint check-in review with the executive team, our sponsors. You know, there was this sort of angst in the room about, oh my God, we're not going to be able to show financial projections. We're not going to have, you know, what these guys are used to seeing within the big company. Why don't you have this yet? Well, one, because it's not part of the process, number one. Number two, anything that we would have developed at that point in time in the process would have been completely fictional, like almost not even worth talking about. So I remember that moment because there was, David, there was a tremendous amount of angst. And I remember just saying, look, they have to trust that what we're doing is the right thing to do, right? We've got to earn that trust. We have to continue to earn that trust. But that would probably be the first moment. One of the things you'll get into with the mothership, these large companies are compliance driven. They're risk intolerant for all the right reasons. Now, as a startup company, you know, we're about, you know, moving fast, and I won't use the 4-letter word, but breaking stuff, right? I think that still applies. And so the trick is in sort of balancing those things. So I think the second defining moment, and this continues, it doesn't go away, is sort of the first time where I said, you know, look, I understand and respect all of these protocols and policies and measures and ways you all do business. I get that it's important. But if we're to be successful, we need to be out at the furthest edge of the enterprise doing what we do best. And I think the middle ground looks something like, and this is how we've operated, that look, we will check your compliance boxes, but we're going to check them in a way that makes sense for our stage, for our scale. And to their credit, and I think what makes all of this work so well, in our case, with Surehand and Stanley Black & Decker, is the fact they have been patient, committed partners on this journey. And I think, frankly, that's made all the difference.
Charpie, were those the two defining moments for you, given the arc of your experience with Surehand, particularly in the domain of mothership management?
Yeah, I think the one around the revenue piece, it certainly is, and it is actually for every startup who's trying to do this entrepreneurial types of startups, because the mothership absolutely is looking for two things when they usually start. You know, what is the size of this opportunity and the market that we're going after, and how soon can I make money? And to Chris's point, the realization that anything we do is essentially made up until we can get ourselves into the market and find out what people are willing to pay, how they're willing to absorb the product, what they're willing to do with it, is truly that. It's just fiction. And we want to make sure that that's not a trap you get pulled into. Because as a person who's servicing or developing a startup for a big organization, once those numbers are on the table, you can't ever take them back. And if you put something up there that does not prove to be reality, you're not only hurting yourself and you're hurting the organization, you're actually hurting all those who are coming behind you. There's an understanding now that innovation has this notion of unpredictability and risky, and we're never going to make the money and it's never going to happen, and so why are we doing it? And so you actually hold an obligation not only for yourself, for the company you're trying to start, but for all those that are coming after. I do think that's an incredibly important and first interaction with the mothership. The other thing I would say that, you know, I agree with Chris that the notion of saying no the first time is always an interesting and challenging one. But I think the truest other point that he ran into was, as you get to the end, about what is it that the mothership does to help you roll from the idea and the funding into becoming reality out in the marketplace. The first time you're going to be a real business out there, interacting with customers, trying to get your pilot set up, getting things underway, and how they treat that whole transition in terms of time limits. Do they go and make you wait 6 months to get the money, or do you get actually and get going right away? You know, the interaction in terms of what do they do in terms of staffing? Do you get the people you need, or do you have to fight from day one on? And that transition is often very rough. And it is a defining moment in terms of, can you keep that momentum you started? Can they be there for you enough to prove their worth? And to Chris's point, I don't even like to say mothership management, I like to say mothership opportunity.
Yeah.
Can you take advantage of what they've got to offer? Because that's what makes you different than every other startup.